Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fem City Business class. On Monday, we do this every Monday, and we have a library full of classes. If you have missed them previously, we'd love for you to head on over to femcity.com and see them. I'm Lynn Pelzer, the COO at Fem City, and I'm excited for our topic because we're kind of talking about this all month in different areas. And today, it's self-love and boundaries. Oof, creating a life that aligns with your worth. I know this teacher. She is going to get to the heart of it, and it's going to mean a lot to you. So please, get yourself comfortable to listen and learn from Barbara Schumann-Lamb. I want to tell you a little bit about her. Barbara is a Founder Circle member at Fem City, and she's an expert at helping female entrepreneurs realign with their purpose, break through plateaus, and achieve sustainable growth. And she is a woman very much full of love for her community and for women. And she's done so much work and so many times taught classes and done things for us. Barbara, we really appreciate you being here for us today.
Thank you. I love being here and doing this. As you know, anyone who knows me knows that Fem City is close to my heart. So I love being able to share and kind of raise the tide for everyone, right?
Yes. Thank you. So, and if anyone has comments or questions as you go along, please put them in the chat. I'll be checking on them. And then Barbara will probably see some of them, but we'll come at the end and make sure we share any comments for her and anything you feel like sharing and anything you want more clarity on. I'm sure she'll be happy to answer on that too.
Awesome.
All right. Take it away, Barbara.
Okay. Well, thank you for spending some time and watching this. So it was interesting because I do help a lot of young executives as they're trying to find their way into the working force, and I also spend a lot of time with more seasoned executives that are looking to leave corporate and kind of start building their own businesses or go into more consulting and things like that. So I really deal a lot with women that are in some form of transition. And what happens in any kind of transition, it tends to be a little chaotic. And the first thing that most people will give up is self-care. If you're changing and switching gears, you want to acclimate or you want to present yourself in a way that is good for the new situation you're going into, right? Because everyone wants to be liked. And the problem is that we start doing away with our own self-care, our own self-love, and with that goes boundaries and everything else. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation that just is not functioning well for you. So today I kind of want to hit on the points, and then I'm going to give you a couple of tools that you can take forward and you can use. So the first thing is understanding the importance of self-love in your own person, in your day-to-day life, and also professionally. When you have self-love, a lot of people are uncomfortable with that, and you shouldn't be, because the more you can have self-love and the healthier you are with your attitude towards yourself, the more that you can then give to others around you. So an idea would be if you are part of a team, or if you if leading the team, then you want to make sure that your own energy is grounded and that you can transfer that forward. And they always talk about the best loving relationships, even on the personal level, are the ones where the people in those relationships love themselves. The same thing goes professionally. You want to exude that you care about your team. Depending on the industry you're in, will determine how you express that care and how you express that equilibrium that goes through it. But in your own self-love is you bring forward confidence. And in that confidence, you build confidence in the team around you, in your ability to perform your job. The other thing that I think is important to touch on is the boundaries that produces. If you love yourself and you love those around you, you can set kind boundaries. I think an important part of boundaries, or the important aspect of boundaries, is it's not about just what you're allowing other people to do to you or around you, but it's also what you are allowing yourself to do and be around. That is, setting up work descriptions, setting up time boundaries, setting up when you're available, when you're not available. And those boundaries are really an expression of how you look at your own value. And I suggest that you value yourself a lot and really set very clear boundaries, especially if you're working in a consulting situation, or you're working fractionally. I do a lot of fractional and consulting work in different time zones. So I also have to have clear boundaries, because if I have someone who's 3 hours behind me, they have no problem reaching out to me at 5:30 their time or 6 o'clock their time, and that happens to be 8:30 and 9 p.m. for me. And so that's not a great boundary to allow that to happen unless it's a crisis situation. But I always express those kind of boundaries, my availability, and then also the boundaries on the type of work and the workload that they can put on you. One of the things about working remotely is you kind of become the catch-all, because they don't have to look at you every day, and you don't have access to everyone maybe every day, and they just keep putting things on. So you also want to set those boundaries of workload, and these are boundaries that you should express on the front end. Acknowledge that you're in different time zones. Acknowledge these are the hours I'm available. If you need me during these other hours, then I can schedule appointments or make myself available. This is the workload that you've contracted me for. If we do anything above this workload, then we have to agree to it beforehand, and there's additional charges and things like that. So you don't want to catch anyone off guard with these boundaries, but you do want to have some thought around them and express them, and make sure that there's an agreement and that there's an understanding about those boundaries. And then the other thing that we're always wrestling with, and it amazes me, because it's not only for the young women coming up, but it's also kind of the seasoned guard, right? The old guard of women that are in corporate, is that we have a lot of guilt. And we just feel like we need to perform more. And in many cases, we do, although we've been breaking ground on that, and that has become more equalized. But we really have a hard time saying no. And so for my coaching clients, I actually have them practice saying no in the mirror. Whenever you find something that you are uncomfortable in saying no, or if you have a package or a service that you're providing, and you find that every time you communicate the pricing of that you tend to, it's funny because there's a tone of voice that you can do. If you find that when you communicate the price that you're either hesitating or you're coming up at the end of it, how much do you charge an hour? I charge $500. That's a question. So you want to, what do you charge an hour? I charge $500. And you want to practice that. So that's another kind of boundary issue that we have, because that's like internal boundaries. And so the same thing goes in when you're saying no. You really want to say, no, that's not going to work for me. Or, whatever, practice that line. If you feel like you need to make it, there's the running meme of no is a full sentence. Well, professionally speaking, you kind of want to add something to it, but you don't necessarily have to. But you can still say no in a kind and professional way. So, and it is all about just kind of being steady, and just calm down, love yourself, and give yourself that calm. I mean, I'm going to give you some tools about how to kind of get into that mode. And of course, by maintaining the boundaries, you're preventing burnout. So what I'd like to do now is move forward, figuring out how to do this. Okay, so when you are setting boundaries and when you are setting up your life, do you live in gratitude? That's the self-love part. For me, gratitude is the cornerstone of everything. Doesn't matter what industry you're in or what your job track is, your career track is. If you are working in any situation, gratitude is a really important part of what you do. And understanding if you're living in gratitude are you appreciating the small things? Look at what's happening. If you are able to work from home, that's great. So what does that allow you? What are those things to be grateful for? If you have to go into an office, that could be great too. What are the things you can be grateful for in those small things, and feeling content in what you have. So looking at something and really recognizing there's always a silver lining. I'm the silver lining lady. So if anything is happening, and I've had some hard events in my life, and there's always a silver lining. Sometimes you can't see it until after the fact. So sometimes you just have to trust that this is going to be a lesson. And so if something hard happens, you're going to be like, this is a lesson. I am grateful for whatever this lesson is going to bring me. So, just really, sometimes we have to dig deep to find it, but really looking at and being content with the process, and being mindful of the blessings. That is important. There's going to be times that you're down and you're dark, and something will happen, and you need to focus your energies and just be cognizant of where the blessings are. And so, it's like, if you are single, hey, you've got some freedoms. If you are married, you've got companionship. If you have children, you have lots of chaos and love in your life. And if you don't have children, then you have peace and quiet, and everything is where you put it. So, there's always that other side. There's always flipping the switch. And that's something else, which I'm not really getting into today, but something I'm always teaching and always encouraging people to do is flip the switch. So if you take something that is kind of a negative thing, and then you can flip it into a positive thing. And there's like a 7-question process that you go through, because anything that is going on, there's always going to be something positive that comes out of it. Even if it's not immediately obvious, it will come to you down the road. And then just also finding joy in the present moment. So there is a difference between joy and happiness. Happiness is situational. Happiness is, you got the last chocolate croissant that you really love these croissants from the, whatever, or, you got a great parking spot, or you are surrounded, you're having lunch with a friend that you haven't seen in a long time. That's happy. That's a good and happy thing. Joy is different. Joy is more cellular. It's a visceral piece of yourself. It is how you live your life. Do you live your life in joy? Gratitude is where joy comes from. So if you are living in joy, someone could steal your parking spot, but you're kind of upset about that, but you still have joy in your life. So if someone steals your parking spot and you're like, all right, you got it, and you go find another parking spot, and you can still maintain that joy even in an unhappy moment. So finding joy in the present moment. I get a lot of pushback from people when they say, okay, what does it mean to be in the moment? They understand the wording of, you can't be in the future. You can't worry about what's going to happen, and you can't regret what was behind you, and that you have to be in the joy. And they understand the words, but understanding what that truly means about being in the moment is joy. Joy will bring you into the moment and really lets you savor what's happening around you and the blessings that you have around you. So this brings me to, this is a tool, and I have everyone do this, and you can set up accountability groups to do this, which I call bookending your day. What it is the practice that we go through is we set up quarterly goals. We set up a vision for the year or for the 5-year plan, and then we set up quarterly goals, and then we set up monthly tasks, and then daily action steps. So the idea is that in the mornings, we pick up 3 action steps that we are going to accomplish that day in order to push our goals forward. So those are working on creating the joyful life and creating the better life. So there's 3 intentions in the morning, and they're small. They're like 20 to 30 minute action steps that you can take that'll keep everything moving forward. So you don't end up in November going, I didn't get anywhere close to my resolutions. So we want to make sure that we handle this every day. So I call those the 3 morning intentions. And then in the evening, as you're preparing to go to bed, I ask everyone that works with me, they find 3 small gratitudes to end their day with. Small things. I got the great parking spot. My running joke is the Doris Day parking spot. Or you had a great cup of coffee, or you ran into a puppy that you got to pet and play with, or someone held the door open. They have to be small. The big ones are easy, it's the small ones that you can look at your day and go, okay, the world doesn't suck. That's all we're looking for. So I have everyone bookend their day. So they in the morning, they have their 3 intentions, and in the evening, they have their 3 gratitudes. I have a group of people that do accountability. So we message our 3 intentions, and then we have accountability in the afternoon. So bookending your day is a great tool to make sure that you stay within joy, that you stay within your gratitude, that you are giving yourself self-love, because you are moving your dreams forward with your intentions, and you're recognizing the good stuff in your life on a regular basis. Boundaries. So the other part that we were presenting today was the idea of boundaries. And I want to take a little bit of a twist. A long time ago, I learned about the be, do, have model. And several people have taught different versions of it. And it hit me so much that I have actually made it one of the cornerstones of the process that I have. So there's 3 key personality types. The first one is the victim. Basically, the victim structures it in the have, do, be. Meaning that if I have the right resources, if I only had the right people around me, if I had the right opportunities, then I could do the things that these things would allow me to do, and then I could be happy, right? So everything for the victim is contingent on their external situation. The next process is the controller. So the controller is, and a lot of professional, if not most professional women, fall into this category. I know that this is my knee-jerk controller situation. And that the controller is, if I do this, if I do enough, if I do more, then I would have the appreciation of the people around me. I would have things done the way I want them to be done. I have control over my world. I have, that kind of thing. Then I could be happy. So for them, for a controller, for us, for a controller, we're really contingent. Our happiness and joy is contingent on how much we do. So that's exhausting. And so I am a recovering controller. Because what we really want to do is we want to be the creator. The creator is, if I can be who I want to be, or to be who I am intended to be, if I'm aligned with my purpose and I am who I am meant to be, then I will automatically do the things that that person does. And then I would have all of the abundance and all of the joy that would be part of that person's life. So that is the be, do, have model. So that's the creator. And that's something we all strive for. In times of stress, I knee-jerk into controller, and that's fine. I'm happy to say that it's been a long time since I fell into victim, although sometimes it happens. If my bakery's out of my favorite croissant, then I do feel a little bit like a victim. But other than that, I try to live my life in the creator mode. And I try to help the people that work with me to also identify what their be is. Who do they want to be? And some way of simplifying that would be, so people struggle with it. So be would be the adjectives of who are you? What defines you? And if you have a hard time uncovering what's in yourself, look at somebody else, someone that you admire and appreciate, and think of the adjectives that describe that person. And so you can borrow those adjectives until you can find your own, or you can make them your own adjectives. But the idea is to, if it resonates with you, to really be comfortable with who you are and who you aspire to be. The other exercise that I have people do with this one is every morning, while you're having your coffee or your tea or you're driving in your car, whatever, you just give yourself 10 to 15 minutes to sit in that be, to sit with the person that you aspire to be before the day gets hectic, before everyone starts pulling on you, before you're running from thing to thing to thing, and just kind of sit, find that energy and just sit in that space. If you want to journal while you're doing it, that's great. If you want to listen to music that you aspire to listen to on a regular basis, just kind of feel that energy. So when I digress, but really quickly, when we have traumatic events, we do this thing called neurotagging. So it affects all of our senses, smell, hearing, and things like that. So that's why sometimes you'll smell something or hear something, and all of a sudden you don't understand why you're having this negative effect. Armpits prickle, hair goes up, and because you've neurotagged a negative event. but it also goes for positive events. That's why real estate agents bake cookies or have that. Now they have candles and smells. So because the idea is that it harkens back to a better time. So it makes the home feel warm and safe if they can do baked goods. Because it's tied into smell and to also hearing. And that's why we have gentle music and things like that, because you're trying to trigger good feelings in those situations. Well, the same thing happens when you identify with who you want to be and who you aspire to be. And when you're sitting in that, you are reprogramming your neurotags. So you're getting your nervous system and your, not only your mindset, but your nervous system used to being in that energy. And it's like building a muscle. It is, I do martial arts, so we're always repeating things, or if you dance, you repeat because you have muscle memory. Well, in this case, you're having this energetic memory, this kind of neurosystem memory. And so when you are sitting in your B, you want to have the environment around reflect who that is. So you might have the music on, you might have some candles lit. If we always talk about, we want to be this kind of Zen person. Well, some people don't. Some people want to be high energy. So you want to be in a high energy situation, or whatever it is, that person that you aspire to be, or that person that you're uncovering, you want to make sure that you recreate that environment at least for 10 to 15 minutes in the morning. And what happens is, as you're reprogramming yourself and getting more into that, it'll get easier. So when during the day, if someone starts pulling on you and you start getting frantic, and you all of a sudden, 3 breaths, and you go back into that state of who you want to be, and how would the person that I aspire to be respond to this situation? And you take another deep breath and you bring yourself back to center, and you bring yourself back into that energy feeling. You feel it in the pit in your stomach. You feel it across your chest. Another deep breath, shoulders down, and then you reapproach the situation. So you're training your body, and you're training your nervous system, and you're training your mind to be able to tap into that. So that is the 3. That was a crash course on something that takes me a few weeks to teach, but and meditations exercises that we do, but that was like the crash course on that. And then something else for self-love is personal inventory. So I have done a lot of corporate engagement where I do SWAG, SWOT analysis. SWAG is something else. We're getting into that one. SWOT analysis, which is when you interview people in a company, or you interview their clients, and you put together and create a report. And if, for those that don't know, it's for strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So we go through a company and we interview different people, and we ask the people, what do you think the strengths of the company are? What do you think the weaknesses are, the opportunities, threats? And we want to get it from all perspectives. So we ask vendors, we ask clients, we ask staff, we ask leadership, and then we compile that all into a report. And it's really useful, because that is something that helps a company really assess what they're doing right, and how that compares to what their future plans are, or if they maybe need to pivot. And sometimes companies will pivot or change how they handle things, or change even their long-term projections according to what's happening in that analysis. So it's a really useful tool. It's a really great way to reapproach their business plans and their scaling plans, their growth plans, things like that. So I found it to be really useful, and I started doing it for myself. So I call it the SWAG Quickie, because it's a little bit different. And so, and it kind of changes as people, depending on what people need. So this one is about finding strengths, right? So you'll see on the upper right-hand corner, and the reason I start up there, because visually that is a primary corner on when you're laying out anything. So, so we have the step 1 is figuring out strengths. Now I have 3. The idea of this is it's a quickie. So you just want to pick out 3. You might have a list of 12 things that you think are your strength, or you can only find 1. I want you to really dig deep and find 3 strengths. And for some reason, strengths seem to be the hardest thing for women. When I work with men are like, bam, bam, bam. Women are like, I don't know. So, so suffer it and get me 3 strengths. And then number 2 would be your weaknesses. Now, women, again, we tend to have like these are my weaknesses. Men have a hard time finding, identifying something as a weakness. And I'm sorry to like bring that into the different psychologies, but it's true. I have found, and there's a study, which I guess I had to find that study, but there's basically the way that men and women think are different. And the analogy that I've come up with is, if you remember like the carnival, they used to have these guys, or circuses, I think they had it like on Cirque du Soleil for a while. There's these guys that have these long wooden dowels and they spin plates on them, right? So they get one going, they get that going, and then they get this one, and they have to give this one a little bit more energy because it starts wobbling, and then this one starts wobbling. So they're now working like 10 different, things, and adding energy here, and they keep kind of everything floating until they bring it down. That's how women work. That's how we work. Most of us, we get a little energy here, and we just keep all these plates spinning, and we move all of these things and keep everything spinning. Men, on the other hand, most men, let's not be absolute, they hit one target. They're like target, and they can hit them in sequence, and they can be pretty quick and efficient about it, but they're about one target. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you have a man in your life and he decides to sit down and watch the football game, he gathers up his snacks and he sits down, he's going to watch football or soccer, whatever his sports game is. And then you sit down and you're like, oh, cool. Whatever the sport is on TV. Awesome. Honey, I was thinking, I have to go to the store. And they're like, why are you talking to me? They cannot. We want to like, oh, the game is on. We can have a conversation. We're making our list. We're thinking about what we have to do next. We're multitasking. And the guy's like, why are you bothering me? I'm watching the game. Well, I know, but you were going to do this and you haven't done it yet. When I'm done with the game, they get into that kind of tunnel vision. So, and it also applies to work. And if you understand that and you're working with that, you can kind of see how that is. So that was a sidebar on different ways of being. And again, it's a generalization, and I'm sure there's women that do the target thing, and there are men that are spinning plates, but just in general. And that harkens back to studies from the evolution of man and women in society. So the third step is aspirations. So this is a little bit harder, and that is, what are your aspirations? What do you want your life to look like? What do you want to incorporate in your life, or what do you want to expand on if it's already in your life? And so what are your aspirations? And then the fourth thing is your goals. So aspirations are different than goals. An aspiration is something larger and more idyllic, and kind of like in the perfect world, this is what is going to happen. A goal is what are you going to do about it? So let's say your aspiration is you want to be a doctor. So that's a great aspiration. And then, so what are your goals? Your goal would be then, depending where you are on that ladder, is go to medical school. Your goal is you've got to find a good internship, or you need to find, so whatever the goal would be, to how are you going to move that forward? So aspiration is kind of like the bigger picture. A goal is what are you doing immediately? What is quantifiable as far as action and timeline about getting that done? So I have people do this as every quarter we go through and we set up their quarterly goals. So they've got their yearly aspirations, or it could be a 5-year plan. And then when we're setting up their quarterly goals, we do this really quick thing, because like the company version, it does really help steer the situation, and it keeps you really true to what you want and what you have. And when you take the time to actually sit down and write it out, it's a lot easier to create that boundary, and it's a lot easier to keep yourself moving forward on what is important to you, and not always just be responding and flexing to accommodate everyone around you. But it really does help you clarify for yourself. There's that self-love. And so as you are clarifying that for yourself and you're defining that for yourself, you can then be predictable. People can understand, well, she has this time gap. because she's doing something else or she's got something else going on. And so as you are practicing that self-love about understanding who you are and where you want to be, then the people around you can also respond to that and understand what those boundaries are. And then they become very clear on where they need to be in respect to that. So that is why it's really important to have a really clear idea of who you are and where you want to be, so the people around you and the people you're either leading or working with can also respond and be part of that, or understand that they don't want to be part of that, because that's also the thing. And so that's why it's really important. And I know that some people, when you talk about self-love in a professional environment, they kind of initially shrink back from it. But yeah, don't shrink back from that, because the career path that you're on or the job that you have should be something that fulfills you. When it fulfills you, then you're going to do a better job at it. If it's something that inspires you, then you're going to do a better job about that. And when you have a better understanding on how that works for yourself, you're also going to have a curiosity and an interest to see how your team members are also doing that. Encouraging team members to have boundaries and finding out what inspires them is also really important. There's studies have been done where people are in school. So in the United States, for our schooling, we focus on what the students are not good at. And so we focus on that to bring that level up. And what they are good at, we just kind of leave them alone, thinking that that's just going to rise on itself. Most European countries, they see what the child is good at and they focus on that because they want to find their genius, and they're moving them into their genius, and then they just have to become competent at the things that don't come naturally to them. So the whole idea of like finding your genius is an important aspect of it. And it's not only about finding your genius and understanding that, but it's also finding the genius of the team around you, because that's when, if you can get everyone working in their genius and that team comes together, that is where a really strong team really functions at a much higher level. And so understanding yourself and that aspect of self-love will also help you bring the team forward. So these are the nuances of self-love, which is what the points that we spoke at the top of this presentation. So that's it for the presentation. If anyone has questions, or Lynn, if you can think of something that I need to go over or repeat.
Thank you so much for that, Barbara. If anybody wants to add a comment for Barbara, please do, because that's always so encouraging too, to tell us what you thought, or if something you had a takeaway. I'm sure Barbara would love to hear that. I have something I want to just kind of mention to you, Barbara, that was coming up for me.
Mm-hmm.
That self-love and that journey of self-love, it's very intentional. I think that can be this time where we think it's you either have it or you don't, but it's really a journey. And you talked about building the muscle, and I'm not sure if you're talking about it specifically on building self-love, but on another area. But it struck me, I'm like, it is something we have to work on. If it's just, we weren't just born maybe we were born this way. We were born this way to be loving ourselves, and over time, not honoring that as much, right? And this work and these tools that you're giving, and I loved how you were talking about it, how it can work in our work life and in teams and things, but also what we're doing for ourselves and the boundaries and loving ourselves. It just makes it so much better for everyone else around us. I mean, we're actually doing better for everybody by loving ourselves.
Absolutely. And it's interesting too, because the other thing that comes to mind is it's not a one and done thing. Mm-hmm. It is something that we work on. Even us, even in Fem City, there's a lot of people that are writing books, and there's coaches, and we talk about, self-love and finding purpose, and we all slide out of alignment, right? All of us. We all have, I teach this stuff, and I have, people that I've helped along, and I still find moments where I forget my self-worth. and I forget the self-love and all of a sudden I'm saying yes to too many things, and I have to remind myself, be like, no, my plate is full. Can't do any more right now. Or, I can charge this fee. I know they're going to get good stuff out of it. Just any of those things. It's like really sitting down and, it just kind of being in that space. I go back to being in the be, like really understand who you are and have confidence in that, because everyone is spectacular. I mean, I meet a lot of people through Fem City, and I mean a lot of people in general, but I can even say here in the Fem City cocoon, I have not met somebody that was uninteresting. I mean, everyone I've met has been super interesting, super engaged, has amazing plans that I'm so excited for them, or working on something that I find super interesting and I'm super curious about. And so it's a great community that way. And we can all come together and I think help each other as we go out into the world and share our gifts. But yeah, I think something we always have to work on and we always have to be aware of.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So we're not done yet. We're never done. We're never completely done.
Thank goodness. How boring it would be.
Yeah. And there was a comment that said, thank you. Barbara,
thank you.
So this was invaluable. So thanks for giving us that comment. Okay. If we have no other questions there or comments, Barbara, this was great. Another comment. I appreciate the presentation today. Thank you, Renetta.
Thank you.
Barbara, thanks so much for giving. I know it's a short amount of time and you have so much to give. You have programs and things that you do all the time. So thank you for giving us as much as you could in this time so that we have something to start working with and thinking about. And if anyone wants to reach out to Barbara, where can they find you, Barbara, for the work that you're doing?
So my website is rockintheriverllc.com. And I think I'm on the directory somewhere, on the Fem City directory. But you could also reach out. My email is barbara@rockintheriverllc.com too. So you can go there.
Thanks.
And I'm also on LinkedIn. Great place to find me is on LinkedIn. And I have some videos too on YouTube. If you go to Realign with Purpose, I think my name is on there too. So I have a lot of YouTube videos. I just finished a 8-week shifting gears, 2024-25 shifting gears free workshop on YouTube. So that's there also.
Thank you for that extra resource. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Thanks everyone for joining us, and go ahead and watch this twice because you'll get more out of it the second time, I'm sure. Thanks for joining us today. Bye, Barbara.
Thank you. Thank you
so much.